Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay. I wanted to talk a little bit about this little Nas X situation and his new video, Montero and AKA Call Me by Your Name, and my thoughts about it. Yeah, I saw this video yesterday when it hit the airwaves, and I saw the controversy surrounding it and the subsequent fallouts. Of course, we had the usual suspects of Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, and alike already coming on their rage about this video because in the video, Little Nas X is basically performing a really sexual type video, sexual type motions for a figure in there that appears to be the devil or Satan, Beelzebub, Shaitan, or however you want to shape it. He's performing for the devil in this video, really sexual stuff. And my opinion of it is that it was really satanic, really evil, really next level stuff. Now, I understand from getting a more nuanced view of it that he was doing it to troll. He was doing it to send a message that a lot of people that are religious believe that um, you go to hell if you are a member of the LGBT community or gay. And he was doing it to troll, to be intentionally provocative. Now, I don't have a problem with any images in any kind of video because it wouldn't be the first time that music is associated with devil imagery. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne worshiped the devil in his songs. Kiss was said to worship the devil in many of their songs. Going all the way back to blues music, you have Robert Johnson, who allegedly pledged himself to the devil in many of his songs. But it's different for hip hop. Hip hop has never really had somebody who is openly satanic in their music. Rock and roll has traditionally been associated with this type of imagery, pentagrams, devil type worshiping stuff. Um, Hip hop has stayed away from that. Hip hop has had other negative, negative imagery associated with it, sexuality, gang stuff, violence, but never satanic stuff. That's always really been the domain of heavy metal music, of rock and roll, and never the openly gay stuff, the gender bending stuff. That's never really been a part of hip hop. You know what I mean? So that's something different for hip hop. But Republicans lashing out against satanic imagery in music is something as old as music. You know what I mean? Ever since the blues was invented, people in the church have always said that it was associated with the devil. Hi, Lisa. You're welcome to the channel. Weigh in a little bit, Lisa, on your opinion of this whole satanic panic thing that is going on. This is something new for hip hop. Hip hop has never really dealt with this kind of criticism before. The devil like the things like that they criticize WAP for. or the things they criticize, let's say Takashi 69 for, is stuff that we all know they always criticize rap for. The violence, the sexuality, the misogyny. But satanic stuff, that is an area that rap has never really crossed. Rap has never really had to deal with those kind of accusations. That kind of stuff, those kind of accusations were hurled at musicians from the rock and roll community. In the 90s, people used to hurl that stuff at Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson did that kind of shit in the 90s when I was growing up as a kid, and we were taught as hip hop fans, one of the things we prided ourselves on is we didn't listen to that devil shit that the rock and roll people listen to. They was on that devil worshiping shit, that demonic stuff, and we was on some other shit. The stuff that they would accuse us of, misogyny, sexuality, gangsterism, that was in our community. Right or wrong, maybe it was true, maybe it wasn't true. But we could always say in our community, we didn't listen to none of that devil shit, none of that stuff that you always heard about in rock. They would do this kind of thing, the horns. What does the horns mean? What did we know that the horns mean? The devil horns. It was always the Illuminati type stuff associated with rock and roll. It was never really associated with hip hop. Lisa said that there's rumors that there's Illuminatis in hip hop. That's always really been a thing. Well, not always. That was a thing, from what I remember, starting with the early 2000s with Beyonce and Jay-Z. That Beyonce and Jay-Z would do some satanic shit, but it wasn't out in the open. It wasn't prevalent. Like with Lil Nas X, he's tapping into an energy that you never really saw in rap music videos explicitly. Is a pro-Satanist energy, a gothic type energy that was like, because if you were to ask Jay-Z or Beyonce or any of these people that they accused of being Illuminati from back in the day, they would say that they would deny that they was that. They would say that they was Christians. They would say that they believed in God. They wouldn't embrace that. Lil Nas X is embracing that satanic gothic energy like the rock and rollers embraced it in the 90s. And that can alienate his hip hop fan base. Not that hip hop really fucks with him anyway. Not only because he's gay, and hip hop might have a problem with homophobia, rightly or wrongly, but because of the type of songs that he makes is not conducive to hip hop either. So he might become public enemy number one in the hip hop community. You're going to see a lot of videos from people that are going to be featured on TV shows like Vlad TV that's gonna trash him. Lisa said he's going too far. Now the too far part, I agree with the blood sneakers. You don't take human blood and make sneakers out of them. Now, I think the blood thing is a lie. I don't think he made human sneaker blood with human blood made sneakers made with a drop of human blood. And if he did, he's dumb. Because we're living in a time of a pandemic. Now, unless them sneakers were made 2 years ago, you're being very unsafe and unsanitary using blood to make human sneakers. And by telling people that, if you think that is going to get you to sell more sneakers than Michael Jordan, well, okay, yeah. But there is a video by Logic that is promoting sympathies to the LGBT community. And there are other ways that he could have shown that. He took his inspiration for the title from a novel that was about LGBT life, and he could have shown that in a video form. He didn't have to take it to the level that he took it to. He didn't have to use the imagery that he used. He was being intentionally provocative. He was trying to get a rise out of people, especially these conservatives, because that's going to be the new thing now. Is you want to really become something in the rap game and in the music game in general, piss off these people like Shapiro and like Candace Owens because they're easy targets. They'll be pissed off by anything remotely sexual. But you run the risk of pissing off your own fan base, the people that support you, that may say, well, we supported you with Old Town Road. That was a funny song. And you pissed a lot of conservatives off with that, just going out of gender and race norms. But now you're going a little bit too far with the sneakers. You know what I mean? And if it's not true about the sneakers, then it's not even funny to be talking about that because you're dealing with the LGBT community that very sensitive when it comes to dealing with blood sharing because they dealt with a pandemic as well back in the 1980s, and it was the HIV pandemic that hit their community particularly hard. And it's something that they are dealing with still to this day in that community. And it's not something to laugh at, it's not something to take lightly. So, if you are telling people that you are using human blood and you are laughing about the idea of blood sharing on sneakers, that's not something to be laughed about, and that's not something to be responsible for. You know, that's not responsible to be doing that coming from that community. Now, I think that this guy is a troll. He's not a hero for the LGBT community just because he happens to be the first openly gay male rapper. He's not an advocate for the LGBT community just because he happens to be a member of that community. He's not sending a positive message for that community into the world. What he is sending is a message to the community, to the people about that community, that that community is is not to be taken serious. See, one of the things, and I talk about this in my 2010 review video, that Lady Gaga did that was good, was Lady Gaga advocated for the LGBT community in a positive type way, with positive affirmations in her songs regarding the LGBTQ community. Not silly affirmations, not to be looked at as a clown, as a joke. She wore provocative outfits, that's true. But her message in her music was a serious message in her music, not this kind of comical message. Lisa's saying that the conservatives shouldn't be upset about this because they're the ones who had a huge golden statue of Trump, which is against the Bible. That's true. But the problem is the devil stuff. People don't. People are not going to. It could be a thing where, like, okay, with the cancel culture, a lot of times people were accusing a lot of other artists of being racist, right? A lot of the right wing, so they embraced the racism, right? They said, well, okay, then I'm gonna say it's okay to be racist, and they came out with the okay sign or whatever, right? So they said, well, they're gonna say I'm racist. Well, that's what I'm gonna be. Then I'm gonna be that. And the trolls from that community just started trolling. It could be that. It could be Lil Nas X saying, you know what? They say that I'm evil, so I'm just gonna be evil, and I'm gonna give them all the more reason to say that I'm evil because I'm playing into their hand. I just think too, what gets under a lot of people's skin is the name he chose that goes against Nas. Nas' image, the original Nas, the real Nas, but I say is the real Nas. He was a proactive, conscious rapper with a moral foundation. Nas, the big Nas, the original Nas, he would have never gone for this type of stuff. He wasn't about that. He was about proactive positivity in his music and in his community. Not that he was a Bible person, not that he was religious, not that he was perfect, but he stood for something. And this Nas, this new Nas, he appears that he doesn't stand for much of anything. He doesn't even stand for what is right in his own community. He is a joke. He is a clown. He is the he's the example of what today's rappers are, what they represent compared to what they represented in the 90s. What they represented in the 90s was a proactive, not always a positive message. I'm not going to sit here and say that Biggie and all the time Tupac and all the time Nas and all the time Jay-Z and all the time Big Pun or any of these 90s rappers that I grew up liking always represented positivity. That wasn't true. but they had a message to their music. Even the pop artists in the 2010s, like Lady Gaga, that did have a pro LGBT message to their music, they still had a message to their music. They weren't just trolling to troll. They weren't just the female artists that represented emancipated sexuality. They weren't just doing it to be thoughts or to be sluts. They were showing that female sexuality could be emancipated in a certain type of way and could be expressed in a raw type of way like Little Kim and them did. They had a message to their music. There was a message to their madness. They weren't trolling just to troll. This guy has gotten so far off the pavement that nobody is going to look at him and take his music serious. Nobody's going to look at him and say that his music meant something to me. What does Montero mean? What does Old Town Road even mean, other than being a comical song? And the problem that a lot of people have with this type of stuff too is that you put out a song like Old Town Road and you appeal a lot to a lot of kids. So when they go into Old Town Road and they go to look up, there was a video of Lil Nas X with a group of elementary schoolers singing Old Town Road. They go to look up Old Town Road, they come up with this Montero song. Now, they're seeing a man lap dancing in front of another man. Now, how does one explain to an elementary schooler this type of sexuality? Whether it be heterosexuality or homosexuality or any type of thing, how do we explain this type of thing to an elementary school little boy or girl? He exercises no responsibility in his music. Now you might say, well, if it was a man and a woman, you wouldn't have a problem with it, right, Jay? You wouldn't really object to it. Yeah, I would object to it. Because you're sending out one vibe that you're like a kiddie artist or an Old Town Road and everything. And then now you're sending out another vibe that you're this explicitly sexual artist. You know, you can't come out with a Barney song and then come out with another song that is like Snoop Dogg or like WAP. You cannot send mixed messages to the kids. Now, he said in his Instagram, he said, well, I was talking about lean and I was talking about adultery and stuff like that in his old song, in Old Town Road. Yeah, but how many people understood the lyrics to Old Town Road? How many people understood the words? It's like with Panda, the designer song that came out a couple of years ago. He was talking about drug use in that song. Sipping on Fanta and all that. The grape juice and the Sprite and all that. All those oblique references to lean and other hardcore drug use is littered throughout all this trap music. But people don't really know that because they're not sitting there with a fine-tooth comb deciphering every little lyric in all of mumble rap. But they can see the imagery. They can see the video. So they don't have to dissect every little lyric when you're talking about imagery. You're not talking about words that majority of people can't understand anyway. They're just going along with stuff. Lisa says parents have to watch what their kids watch online. Yeah, that's easy to say. Lisa, I agree with that. But think about when we were kids. Kids want to be a part of adult culture. Kids don't want to be kids. Everything they see adults do, they want to do. So they'll they will look up this guy's music and they will see this kind of stuff online. So I with you, Lisa, that their parents do need to monitor. I'm not I'm not saying that he shouldn't be. I'm not going to co-sign cancel culture because I believe in free speech. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be out there. What I am saying is that he is an artist. He is an artist. Should exercise more responsibility in the in the songs that he puts out and the kind of imagery, not necessarily the songs, the kind of sexual imagery that he represents for his community. And he is feeding into negative stereotypes that people already have in about his community already in his music. People already think that his community, they have a low opinion of his community already. So the point is, do you feed into that or do you try to say no, this is what our people represent, love and purity and anti-bullying and proactivism. Does he live up to the name of Nas? Like, if he's going to be the next Nas, does he follow in original Nas's footsteps and take it a step further and say what Nas represented for the black community and black consciousness, I'm going to represent in my music for the LGBT consciousness? Or does he feed into negativity, which is something that the original Nas never did? Okay, you might say, well, he's a separate artist, but why take on that name if you're not going to carry on that legacy? Are you going to be a clown or are you going to be somebody that represents a message in their music? We didn't have access to the internet. That's true, Lisa. We didn't. But I had X-rated movies at the age of 10. But what I didn't have was this type of kids will want to look this up. But I never had in my music, ever, the music that I listened to, imagery of the devil, blatant imagery of the devil in my music that I listen to. In my community, of the people that I listen to, both the young and the old, stuff that was embracing the devil, outrightly embracing the devil, was highly, highly frowned upon, highly was taboo. We didn't do that. We looked down upon people that did such things. I had kids that I went to school with that they dressed gothic. That was true, but that was in school, you know. And I myself would look down upon things like that, things of that nature. That is something that is a no-no in many communities. People might not be heavily believing in the Bible or heavily believing in a particular type of religion or um, Christianity or Islam explicitly, but they grow up with something that is a belief in a nature in belief in God, and they don't mock God and the devil and stuff like that is not something that people, certain communities, play around with. We don't. It's just certain things we don't do that we grew up with to be certain taboos, and that devil worship was one of them. Now, he's from a different generation. He might not believe in that. He don't have that. Exactly, Big Nas. And to me, as a Nas fan, a big fan of Nas, taking on that name Nas, that means something to me. Nas meant something to me. Nas's music uh, was part of the reason why I became educated. Him and Tupac, in particular, was one of the things that got me into reading and got me into researching and got me into a lot of the consciousness that I became interested in. So, to me, when you take on the name Nas, you don't take that lightly. Nas is Nas to me. And then when you take on the X part of it, to me, that is an indicator for Malcolm X. That's what that represent to me. And again, not to be taken lightly, not to be taken with a grain of salt. So, absolutely, I don't co-sign this fuckery that I see from Little Nas X, and I will not be listening to this song, Montero, and I will warn people against listening to this song. He could say what he says it means, but the part of the sneakers and the satanic imagery, if you have to put a disclaimer on it and you have to explain what it means, then obviously you know that people are going to take it a wrong, different type of way. He could have conveyed the same exact message in a different type of way. He didn't have to use this kind of imagery. So I'm not going to say cancel him. I'm not going to say you shouldn't be doing what he's doing. He's going to do what he wants to do anyway. But I would say that I don't support it and I don't embrace it. I thought Old Town Road was a funny song and it stood on the charts longer than One Sweet Day. It had a longer chart run more than anything in 2019. I almost made a video about it, but then I messed the video up and I never did another one about it. It was just a funny type song and he was a novelty artist. And, he did what he did. But taking it to another level, trolling people, Nah, I don't agree with it. But anyway, you're absolutely right, Lisa. I don't think Big Nas will co-sign what Little Nas is doing. I wouldn't if I was Big Nas. It's like Little Tupac. Come on, you don't do that kind of stuff. You stand for something or you fall for anything. Peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the reaction. I mean, hit the hit the reaction bell. Hit the bell to see when my next video is coming out. But absolutely, Lisa, um, Little Nas X. Nah, I can't. I don't even know what Montero even means. I don't think he even knows. He's just a nonsense rapper. Old Town Road, Panini, all that other stuff he comes out with. He represents nothing. Yeah, yeah, exactly. He was a pop. He, he's a pop novelty guy, and that's part of the problem. That a lot of his music appeals to underage children. You know, and I'm sure Vlad will promote him a lot because Vlad doesn't really care about pop, and Vlad will promote him a lot. One because I think Vlad is gay, so that's one. Two, Vlad hates Big Nas. Vlad is always hating on Big Nas in all most of his videos, talking about Nas has weak beats and everything. You know, so he'll promote Lil Nas X for sure. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Lisa. The hip hop community never dealt with them really like that. Anyway, Dave East denounced them from the beginning, said it wasn't considered rap. No, they wouldn't play that video. That's part of the problem. Is see in those days, Lisa, the radio and MTV and BET could filter that kind of stuff that kids like us wouldn't be able to see the uncensored version of certain stuff. But now there's no filter. Now kids are on the internet more than ever, especially with homeschooling with the COVID. So, you know, it's hard for parents to really monitor that kind of stuff when their kid is supposed to be in school, but they're listening to Montero. You know, they're supposed to be in class, but they're listening to Montero. They're wondering about how they can get their hands on satanic sneakers, Satan shoes. Nah, I just can't. I can't vibe with the Satan thing. I'm cool with you on everything else. I don't care about your life, your sexuality, or none of that. The Satan thing, I can't rock with that. You know, I just can't endorse that. Peace.